Welcome to the Life with Joey Calvo Podcast. I am Joey Calvo. Before we get started, last night I did an impromptu podcast in reference to the GoFundMe campaign that we are running right now to take this podcast to a new level. And I am happy to say that we got our first donation last night for $50 from an anonymous donor. So that first stage is about to be taken, where we will be going on TV in Philadelphia, as well as on the radio, and continuing to be online as well. The TV and the radio may not be until January, but it is the first step of this podcast. I'm happy to say that. So more details will be following in reference to it. And then when that happens, there will be a change in schedule with this as well. Also continue to help out the victims of the California wildfires and the Texas floods. They do need our help as they are rebuilding. And so today we have Dr. Lewis Meline, and he is a medical doctor. So just bear with me one moment. He is a medical doctor and author of the book Lies Exposed. His book addresses the lies and fallacies concerning the health and weight loss industry. He started his journey that led to writing this book nearly 50 years ago. Dr. Meline, thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Yes, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Okay, so let's start on who Dr. Lewis Meline is. How did we get to where we're at right now?
All right, well, this all started for me, like I said, almost 50 years ago. I was in the military, I was in the Air Force. I was pretty out of shape, had pretty overweight, had smoking, pretty bad situation, I thought. So I quit smoking, and it took me a while, but I finally quit. Mm-hmm. I decided I wanted to do some kind of exercising. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, so I kind of thought about it for a while and thought, well, I'd like to lift weights. I always admired strong people, so I thought I'll lift weights. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, I really eat a poor diet. I should really learn how to eat better. So this all started back then. And as time went on, I started working out, and I started getting a little better shape, started eating better, started reading more on nutrition, better diets, things. Looked at what the weightlifters were eating, what kind of diets did they use, and kind of mimicked their diets. And as I worked out for a while, when I first saw pictures of bodybuilders, it was like, no way, I'm never going to look like these guys. This is just too far out. But as I got a little better shape, started looking a little better, I thought, wow, maybe I really can kind of look like these guys. So I switched over from weightlifting to bodybuilding. And I followed these guys. I followed their workouts. I followed their diets, their supplements, and everything, just as mimic them as close as I can. And I made some good gains, and I was doing pretty good. And I was pretty happy with myself. Mm-hmm. But back then, supplements were pretty expensive, and even now, supplements are obviously very expensive. Mm-hmm. But I'd go for long times where I could afford the supplements, and I would use them, and I was doing great. And then I'd go for periods of time where I couldn't afford the supplements. And so I started noticing that there wasn't any difference between the times when I was using the supplements and the times when I wasn't. So I thought, something's going on here. So, what's the discrepancy? Am I using the wrong supplements? Am I doing the workout correctly? Am I doing the exercises I should be doing? And I started really digging into this. And I couldn't resolve it exactly then. Then I got an opportunity later on to go to med school. I thought, okay, this is great. Med school is going to answer all these questions for me. They're going to teach me all about the physiology I need to know. They're going to teach me all these things. I'm going to be able to figure this out. Mm-hmm. Well, big disappointment. They don't teach you really anything about physiology or nutrition or dieting or anything like that in med school. At least the physiology you need to know for exercise and things like that. Mm-hmm. So it kind of left me on my own to figure out what's going on here. So I really started digging into it. And you hear these guys, they'll come on, they'll talk about all these supplements. You need this supplement to do this, and you need this supplement to do that. And and all these things. And I really, at one point, kind of tried to be one of these guys. I looked up all this information, and I started, there's a lot of crossover when you look at this. And I thought, these things are kind of contradicting each other. And so I dug into it further. And what I finally figured out is that if you eat a really well-balanced diet, that the supplements do nothing for you. Because your diet is supplying everything that the supplements are supposed to supply for you. So for someone who is not as nutritionally sound as they could be, they may get a benefit from taking a supplement, because that's going to supply the missing component that's in their diet. But like I said, if you're eating a well-balanced diet, then you really don't need any of these supplements. They're just a waste of time, basically. So I at one point decided, okay, I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to explain to people what's wrong with these supplements. Why are they fallacies? What's going on behind the scenes here? And as I thought about that, I'd collected up stacks and stacks of research papers and stuff to refute all these claims that they were making. But I discovered that, people aren't really going to be able to use that information. It refutes this supplement, but what about this supplement? What about that supplement? And so that just becomes an endless round of trying to refute these supplements. So I thought, what people really need is they need some basic knowledge. What's the truth? What do you really need to know in order to make yourself healthy and lose weight and do those kinds of things? So I wrote that in the book, and then having this information, how do you use it? So I wrote a section in the book of, okay, now you know the truth behind all these things. How are you going to put that to use? So I gave them some ideas how to implement that information. Now, you can say, well, what's your diet plan or what's this? You can't really give somebody a diet plan, because if I tell you what to eat, that's what I like to eat. It's not necessarily what you want to eat. And you'll follow my diet for a while, but then it won't satisfy your taste in food. And so you're going to kind of revert back to what your previous diet was. And so what I do is teach people how to use this information so that they can change their diet from whatever they're eating to make it the healthiest diet that they possibly can. So this isn't something like most diets want you, they're aimed at losing weight quickly. Because what people want, okay, I'm 50 pounds overweight. I want to get down to my ideal weight by summer that's coming up. I've only got 4 months to do it. How am I going to do that? So most programs are aimed at people doing this. So they cut back your calories. They tell you what to eat. This is what you're going to eat. And this is how much you can eat. But in doing so, they cut back your calories so that you'll lose weight as quickly as possible. And if somebody is telling you that you're going to lose a pound a day, that's completely ridiculous. And but they tell you this, and you're in a hurry. People who are trying to lose weight want to get it off now. Okay, I've spent 20 years getting in the shape I'm in, but I want to be in good shape and down to my ideal weight in 3 months. It's just not realistic. But people play on this urgency by the people wanting to get their weight down and things. So they give them a diet that's going to cause them to lose weight quickly. Well, there's several things wrong with this. One, that diet doesn't supply you with the kind of food that you really enjoy eating. Another thing is that they may be fairly healthy depending on kind of how they set up the diet. But in trying to lose that much weight very quickly, you can't make the diet as nutritious as it needs to be. And so you're not maximizing your nutritional state. And the other thing is it's just not realistic. So you cut back the calories, you start losing some weight. It's not the food that you like to eat. And sure, you start losing some weight and you're starting to feel a little better about yourself. But now pretty soon you start craving the stuff that you gave up. And you start reverting back. You start eating a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And the next thing you know, you're off their diet. You're back on your diet. And this can all happen either while you're trying to get to your weight goal, or it may happen after you get to your weight goal. But at some point, because you've not established a way to eat healthily in a way that you like, you're going to revert back to the things that you were doing that you did like. And of course, if it caused you to be fat and out of shape and overweight and nutritionally unsound before, that's exactly what's going to happen again. And that's what happened. People, they're talking about this yo-yo dieting where you lose weight and gain it back and so forth. This is what happens. And usually when you gain the weight back, you gain back more weight than where you were at to start with. So you're actually worse off. Mm-hmm. Now, even worse with all of this scenario, I told you that these diets aren't necessarily nutritionally healthy, and they may in some degree be nutritionally healthy because they're probably getting you to eat more fruits and vegetables and things like this. But what they don't do is they don't try to maximize your nutrition, and they don't try to do it with foods that you really like. And you're doing it all at once. I say it's like a person that smokes 3 packs of cigarettes a day and then just tries to quit smoking. Or an alcoholic that's drinking a fifth of whiskey a day, just stopping cold turkey. These things just don't happen, except extremely rare. There are those rare individuals who could do something like that, but they are few and far between. So what do you have to do? What are you going to do if you really want to get your weight down? And most people aren't even talking about nutritional health. They're just talking about getting their weight down. Somehow our society has equated skinny with healthy. But the reality is skinny people aren't necessarily healthy. You can be lean, very skinny, and be very nutritionally unhealthy. And you can be quite overweight. Now, you're not going to be really grossly overweight because that's not compatible with eating a good, healthy diet. But you can be quite overweight and still not, and still be nutritionally healthy. So there's no correlation between skinny and healthy and obese and unhealthy. But what you really should be concerned about is nutritional health. Because health is the most important aspect of our lives. If we don't have good health, it really impacts everything we do. So we should be shooting towards maximizing our nutritional health, and then everything else will follow from that. So if you're quite overweight and you just eat a very nutritious diet, you will automatically lose a bunch of weight just by eating more healthily. And then if you still are carrying around too much weight than what you would like to, then you can work on those ways to still eat very healthily, but cut back on the calories so that you'll get down to that weight that you want to be at. What people don't realize is that your body weight is going to settle out at the level of the number of calories that you're consuming. So if you're eating a very nutritious diet and you eat a lot of food and more of the healthy foods that are higher calorie, you probably have more weight than you want to carry. But that's very easy to adjust that and get your weight down to where you would like your ideal weight to be. You can't really, if you're eating healthy foods and your diet is nutritionally healthy, there's no way that you can get excessively heavy. There's just not enough calories in that balance of foods at that level of nutrition that is going to give you enough calories to make you really overweight. So the people who are really morbidly obese have to eat lots of calories every day in order to obtain that weight and maintain it. So how do you get those kind of calories? Well, you get them from eating the processed and highly processed foods that have a lot of calories and very poor nutrition. When you start processing food, you start removing nutrition. And this is part of the process of just processing it. Now, some foods you really can't get away from processing, like cereal grains in general. You have to do something with them. You have to boil them to make them soft, like rice or things like that. Wheat and products like that are normally ground into a flour, and then products are made with that. So there is some minimal processing that goes on there, but you don't take it to the extreme. Now, if you talk about white flour, since we're talking about cereal grains, back in the 1800s, they developed a milling process that would separate wheat into its major components. And what they found was that if you separated out and just everything maintained the endosperm component. It made a very fine white flour. It's kind of sweet, and it worked really well in making bread and things like that. It became very popular. Mm-hmm. What they didn't realize was the components of the white flour that they were, or the wheat that they were taking out, had all of the nutrition in it, or the major part of the nutrition. So they started seeing an increase in diseases from the vitamin deficiencies. Well, it took them until the 1930s before they could figure out what components they were extracting from the wheat that caused these diseases. And so they started fortifying bread. They put B vitamins and iron into bread to fortify it, to get away from this nutritional deficiency that they had created. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, so they don't really know everything that they took out of it. They just know that if you supplement, there's basically 3 B vitamins they supplement, and the iron. If you put synthetic vitamins in the wheat flour, it alleviates these disease states that they were causing. But it doesn't replace everything that was in the flour that they took out. Mm. So what do they use today? Well, they still use the same processes. They still use the endosperm component. They still fortify it. And so you're left lacking. You're not showing signs of disease from eating the white bread, but you're certainly not maximizing your nutrition. Mm-hmm. So that's an issue kind of all by itself. But the cereal grains you have to process somewhat, but very minimally. And then you got the vegetables and other things that you can eat raw. What are the foods that people eat that are highly processed? Well, canned foods are highly processed. And most of them have enough nutrition in them that you're not maybe accumulating a huge deficit by eating canned foods and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But now you get to the super processed foods. By super processed food, you're talking about stuff like potato chips and things like that, where the potato chip, they've essentially extracted any nutritional component that there possibly could be from there. Mm-hmm. And then they're very high calorie. Mm-hmm. So when you start eating stuff like that, and there's a whole list of things, when you start talking about cakes and cookies and, the potato chips, soda pop, and this list just goes on, candy bars and everything that people really like to eat. These things are really high calorie, very poor nutrition foods. And that's what people who are really overweight eat a lot of. Mm. And so if you take weight, and let's say, okay, we have people in this condition who are overweight. Mm-hmm. What are they going to do about it? Well, we've already talked about the diet plans and things that try to force people to lose weight very quickly and those sorts of things. But what happened to the medical profession? Where has that gone? So back up a few years, the medical profession pretty much said, you have to eat better. You have to eat more fruits and vegetables. You have to eat less calories, and that will help you lose weight. Mm-hmm. The government stepped in, and years ago, the government kind of adopted a food pyramid that was not developed by them, but it was adopted by them. And the basic food pyramid really makes the most sense if you think about it. And what it does, it takes foods and it breaks them up into their basic food commonality. So all the cereal grains have a commonality of nutritional components. Mm. Vegetable group, the same thing. They all have a common base of nutritional components that are contained in them. Fruits and things like that. And then you get up to a protein group. And protein is pretty much all the meats. Eggs are included in the protein group. And then finally you got the dairy group. And they put them in a pyramid because a pyramid represents the relative volume that you should eat from each one of these food groups on a daily basis. So for a typical person who works hard every day, you put cereal grains on the bottom because they have not only a wide range of nutritional components, they have a fair amount of carbohydrates and calories that these people need. You get somebody like myself, I don't work that hard. The only hard work I do is in the gym. Mm-hmm. I don't need all those calories. Mm-hmm. So I move cereal grains up on the pyramid a step or two. Mm-hmm. And eat vegetables on the bottom, and fruits, cereal grains are in there, and also the protein and dairy are on top still. Mm-hmm. And that works very well for just a general diet plan. But you can't take someone who is eating a very poor diet and say, okay, well, just follow this food pyramid, or okay, eat more fruits and vegetables. They say, okay, well, I eat more fruits and vegetables. I'm still fat. What's going on? Well, the medical profession doesn't really have time to dig into this. I mean, when you go to the doctor, they give you 10, 15 minutes at most. Maybe if you're into an internist and right situation, they'll take up to a half an hour with you, but they have to see as many patients as they can. They don't have time to deal with what you really need to deal with for someone who's overweight. So telling someone just to embrace these things doesn't get the job done. They'll get very frustrated with that and say, well, what can we do? Well, what does medicine do? Medicine deals with medicine. So the pharmaceutical companies come up with these medicines to do these certain things, and the medical profession prescribes them. So for obesity, it's the same kind of thing. The medical profession takes these medications and says, okay, well, now take this pill. It's going to curb your appetite, and you're going to be able to lose weight. Probably the most successful combination was this before this GLP-1s was fen-phen. Mm-hmm. Well, what they eventually found out is that the one component caused a lot of cardiac problems, and so they had to stop that. Mm-hmm. And the other component by itself was not nearly as effective. So that fad just kind of phased out and went away. And now they're coming up to the GLP-1s. Mm-hmm. Well, the GLP-1s were actually developed as a treatment for type 2 diabetes. And what they discovered is some of the people who were taking this medication were losing weight. Oh, wow, we got you on this medication, now you're losing weight, what's going on? Mm-hmm. So they started to investigate what's the side effect of the GLP-1s that's helping these people lose weight. Well, what they sort of figured out is it causes some appetite suppression and maybe some increase in satiety, so you feel full a little sooner. But what people don't realize is any medication you take is fraught with side effects, and some of them are pretty serious. But if that's your only hope, now another disservice that the medical community did to obese people is along the way, because their suggestions for diet and trying to get people to follow a diet plan and stuff was unsuccessful, they came to the conclusion that obesity is a genetic problem. And when they come up with this idea, they've really done a huge disservice to the obese population, because regardless of your genetics, mm-hmm. you don't have to be obese. As you can have all kinds of disease processes going on, and no matter what it is, there isn't anything that's going to make you gain weight other than eating inappropriately. Mm-hmm. But the medical community has told the obesity population that it's not your fault, it's your genetics. Mm-hmm. So what they're telling you is that no matter what you do, you're going to gain weight because your body is just generating this weight from nothing, mm-hmm. which we know is physically impossible. Mm-hmm. So they've really done a disservice to these people by telling them that. And but that's the way medicine is. Medicine only deals with things. They assume that when you come to them, that your diet is pretty sound, that you're nutritionally healthy, or at least healthy enough. So when you go to a doctor, they assume that you're nutritionally healthy, mm-hmm. and your body has failed in some aspect and cannot correct itself. And so now you need their help. You need the medications from the pharmaceutical companies and their help to get your body back to functioning normally again. And so this is just carried over into the weight loss, obesity climate. Mm-hmm. So now the physicians are really excited. A lot of physicians are really excited. Not me, obviously, because I think it's totally wrong. But physicians are really excited at these GLP-1s because, wow, now we have a tool that we can give people this medication and they'll lose weight. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of problems with that because, so you already eat a really lousy diet, and mm-hmm. that's why you have the weight problem in the first place. Mm-hmm. Now we give you medication that suppresses your appetite. Okay, so you don't eat as much. And you can lose weight eating really poor food. You don't have to eat mm-hmm. a very nutritious diet to lose weight. Mm-hmm. And so they don't eat as much, and sure enough, they lose weight. And what about the side effects and everything? And then what are you going to do when you stop this medication?
Mhm.
Okay, so another problem that they run into is people losing muscle mass because they don't eat a very good diet anyway. And when they cut back on the amount that they eat, they don't eat enough protein, and so now they're losing muscle mass.
Mhm.
And this is a poor situation again all by itself.
Mhm.
So medical community has not really addressed this, and the GLP-1s, as popular as they are, and as hard as they're being pushed by the medical community, is really a poor substitute for reality, what you really need to do to lose weight. So from my perspective, essentially, it's pretty easy to show that the person is overweight because they eat inappropriately. Well, now how do you get somebody to eat appropriately? How do you get them to embrace this? Like I said, being overweight is very similar to being a 3-pack a day smoker or a fifth a day alcoholic. You've got to do something in order to get away from from what you're doing now and get to a point where you need to be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you smoke or if you're an alcoholic or something, you don't need to drink and you don't need to smoke. So in those situations, you're just looking to eliminate those things. But when you're talking about obesity, you do need to eat. So now you've got to go, you can't just stop eating and get to where you want to be. What you have to do is get to what you're eating now to getting to where you should be. So what I have done is educate you on these things. So the problems with the medical community, the problems with the pharmaceuticals, the problems with the diet programs and the other weight loss programs, the coaching programs. What's wrong with those programs? Why aren't they more successful? Mm-hmm. And so my approach is to teach you about these things so you understand where you're coming from, what's going on, and then teach you how to incorporate those into your life and use those to change your diet. So unlike diet programs where they say, okay, you're going to change your diet from whatever you're eating, this is what you're going to eat, which is very stressful, causes a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. But people are willing to do it because they know, at least they've been told, that in 3 or 4 months, you're going to be down to where you want to be and you're going to be really happy and life's going to be great. Mm-hmm. But that's not reality. But they get by with doing what they're doing. Just to give you an example, somebody says, okay, you use my product, use my diet plan, whatever it is, you're going to lose 1 pound a day. So in the next month, you're going to lose 30 pounds. Well, if you think about it, that's pretty unrealistic. It might be realistic for someone who doesn't eat anything but trains extremely hard, so they burn more than a typical amount of. A typical person weighing 170, 180 pounds burns about 2,000 calories a day. But a pound of fat provides about 3,500 calories. Mm-hmm. So if you're a person who your body requires 2,000 calories a day just to maintain your weight, if you ate nothing, just absolutely nothing, you wouldn't lose 1 pound a day. Mm-hmm. So, but you're not going to eat nothing. You get very hungry very soon. Mm-hmm. And in 30 days, you're going to be in pretty bad shape. Mm-hmm. So that idea is impossible. Mm-hmm. So when somebody's promising you this, mm-hmm. and you jump into the program, you say, oh, this is great. And you jump into the program, you start doing it, and 30 days comes and you've lost 5 pounds. And they say, hey, what's going on here? You promised me I'd lose 30 pounds. Well, the way they get around that is say, well, everybody's a little different. And your body is just a little more resistant to losing weight. And so you're just going to have to work out a little harder. Stick with us. We're going to help you. You're going to lose that weight eventually, but you just got to work out harder because your body is resistant. Well, that's just a big fat lie. And so things that I'm contending with is people really are buying into the pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. They think GLP ones are just the greatest thing since sliced bread, unless you're the one who suffers some of the consequences of some of the side effects. And some of those side effects are pretty severe. They can cause blindness and things. And people say, well, those things don't happen very often. And they're right. I mean, some of the really severe things like losing your eyesight are pretty rare. But what if you're the lucky lottery winner? Is it worth it? And all for something that once you lose your weight and you get off the GLP-1s, now what are you going to do? You haven't learned to eat a healthy diet. You haven't learned anything except you've lost your weight. So now you're really compromising your health even worse than it was. And once you get down to your ideal weight, what are you going to do? Well, you stop the GLP-1s.
Yeah.
And then you're going to probably just start eating more naturally. And your weight's going to come right back on.
Yeah.
Well, do you stay with the GLP-1s indefinitely? Well, if you do and you maintain your weight, where's your nutritional health going? And like I said, nutritional health, being healthy is one of the most important aspects of our lives because it affects every aspect of our life. And so what they should really be concerned about is, how am I going to make myself nutritionally healthy? Forget about your weight. As you make yourself more nutritionally healthy, you're going to lose a lot of that weight just from being nutritionally healthy. But another thing that makes this weight loss scenario even more difficult is people have a skewed view of what healthy eating is. They've been told so many things over so many years that, you go into the grocery store and you see these nutrition bars. And maybe it's a protein bar or some kind of nutritional bar. And it says, oh, wow, this is healthy for you. Look, it provides these vitamins and minerals and everything. But when you really analyze it, it has a couple things in there that are okay for okay for you. But they also have a lot of junk in there that you don't need, a lot of extra calories and stuff that's just not nutritionally sound and just robbing the nutrition that from other things that you're taking. But we've been told that, oh, this is healthy. This nutrition bar has all these things in it and it's healthy. So they think that eating these things makes them healthy. And you see people in the grocery store and they'll have a few vegetables in their basket, but the rest of the basket is filled with junk food, with processed and highly processed foods. And like I said, some of the processed foods aren't extremely bad. And some things you just can't get away from processing, like the cereal grains and things. But it's very difficult because of the way people have been groomed and the way society has promoted things and the way that the manufacturers have advertised their products and things. There's just so much misinformation out there that people don't really know what a good, healthy, nutritious diet is. Because they think that if they eat, I eat a couple of vegetables, I eat some cereal grains, I eat some whole wheat bread instead of white bread, things like this. They think, okay, I'm eating nutritionally. When in fact, they're eating a little bit better than what they maybe were, but they're still not eating a truly nutritious diet that's going to maximize their nutritional health. So the fight is to educate people that that's false, that those ideas, these things that they've been told and groomed about is not true, and it's just robbing them of their nutritional health. But and that's the biggest fight there. For me, it's you got the physician group that's and the pharmaceutical group that's pushing GLP-1s and these sorts of things, and then you got the diet and other coaching programs and things that are pushing diets, and the diets they push sometimes I say they're fairly healthy diets, but they've had to change them up so that they're low calorie, and by doing so they've taken away a lot of the nutrition. And they don't try to give you a fully broad-based nutritional diet. They just try to get you eating more healthy and reduce the calories so you lose weight quickly. That's their goal. Get your weight down to where it needs to be. Okay. Another thing that's very wrong about the weight loss plans that people push now is they always include exercise. So you have to diet and exercise. Well, people really hate exercise. And that's obvious because you look at the percentage of the population that really pursues some sort of rigorous physical exercise program. It's pretty small. You're talking 10% or less of the population that really engages in some kind of meaningful physiological or physical activity. But to use that for a diet plan is really pretty ridiculous because most people can't work out hard enough when they do work out to really burn a significant number of calories. And those calories are easily erased by just eating a little bit of high calorie food, and those calories are gone. So if you're trying to burn up calories by exercising, you're really wasting your time. Now, I make it sound like exercise is not important. Exercise is extremely important for what I call physiologic health.
Right.
Because your body really depends on, and it really needs physical exercise in order to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to function the way it needs to function, it needs nutrition first. So that's another thing that's never pushed. Somebody says, okay, you go on these GLP-1s and go to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, you're already eating a poor diet. And then you're going to make your diet even worse by cutting back on the things that you're eating, which you may cut out some of the most nutritious parts of your diet because you don't know. You're just cutting out calories.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go to the gym and you beat your body up.
Mm-hmm.
And your body doesn't have the things that it needs to really function well physiologically. And now you're demanding that it does even more physiological things without the proper nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
So for weight loss, you can lay on the couch and lose weight. It's totally a matter of how many calories does your body need to function with.
Mm-hmm.
And if you give it less calories than it needs for its normal metabolic functioning,
Mm-hmm.
it will use some of your fat stores to provide that needed energy. Same thing goes along here. If you don't eat enough protein in your diet,
Mm-hmm.
then your body will rob some of your protein stores in order to maintain the functions that it needs that need protein. Well, what are your protein stores? That's your muscles. Your muscles are your protein stores. Mm-hmm. So if your diet is very deficient in protein, then your body's going to use some of its muscle
Mm-hmm.
in order to make up this needed nutritional components to just function, just to exist. So your body needs a certain number of calories just to exist. So if you're laying on the couch, however many calories that is that your body needs to just maintain, if you eat fewer calories than that, you're going to use some of your fat stores in order to supply that needed energy, those needed things. And if your diet is deficient in protein, it's going to use some of your muscle to make that up. Mm-hmm. So exercise is very important for physiological health, not needed for weight loss. Mm-hmm. But like I said, exercise is very important. So when you get yourself a little more nutritionally sound, you don't have to have a perfect nutritionally sound diet, but as you start eating better and your nutritional status starts to improve, then going to the gym and starting to learn how to exercise and provide that physical stimulation that your body needs to be physiologically fit, that is a very important thing to do too. So that's exercise is kind of a separate thing. I don't really push a lot of exercise, and I teach people what they need to know about exercise, but I don't try to give people routines and get them into that. That's a whole new ballgame. Mm-hmm. But my goal is to teach people how to be nutritionally healthy, teach them what they need to know so they understand what nutritional health is, so they understand why the medical profession is doing what it's doing, why the pharmaceutical companies are doing what they're doing. Why are all these other diets and other programs out there? Why are they doing what they're doing? And what's it doing to my health? Mm-hmm. And once they understand this base information so that they have some kind of a basis for, making themselves more nutritionally fit, mm-hmm. then they can work on making themselves more physiologically fit. But that's and the thing and I'll just give people some advice right off top. They don't know this because they're not doing it. But the people who are in the gym are they're the 10% of the population that goes to the gym and works out and tries to be as healthy as they can be. Around New Year's, the New Year's resolutioners show up. So the gym started to get pretty busy around New Year's. Maybe a lot of people show up and they go in there and they work out, and some of them have trainers, some of them don't. But about 2 to 3 weeks, that population is gone. Well, why is that? Well, they go in there with the idea that, okay, I'm going to hit this really hard. I'm going to work really hard, and I'm going to burn all these calories, and I'm going to lose all this weight, and I'm going to be really physically fit. But the reality is, starting up a program like that is just like, changing your diet, just taking your diet from the horrible diet that it may be and just making it the most perfect nutritious diet in the world. That's going to cause you a lot of stress and anxiety. And when you go to the gym and you're not used to working out and you start beating up your body, it does the same thing. It causes a lot of stress and anxiety. So people get in there with all these great ideals and they beat themselves up, and it takes about 2 to 3 weeks, maybe a month for some people, and they beat themselves up to the point where they can't make themselves go to the gym anymore. They just cannot do that anymore. And so they quit. And usually when that happens to them, it takes them about 2 to 3 years before they will start making that attempt again I think I'll go back to the gym. I can do it now. But unless they learn how to start up a exercise routine appropriately, the same thing's going to happen again. And so what I try to do is first educate people what they need to know, and then how to use that knowledge. How do you take this knowledge they've given you, and how do you go from your diet to this other diet? And it's a process. You got to be willing to accept the fact that what I'm doing now is killing me. And so I've got to do something, and how am I going to do it? Well, we don't jump into it all at once. You learn to analyze your diet, because this is something you're going to have to do the rest of your life. So you look at what am I eating now? And what's the worst things that I eat? And if it's snacks, a lot of people snack on a lot of things. And usually snacks are very high calorie, very low nutrition. And that's a place that people can really start losing some calories and improving their diet. But a lot of people can't get away from all the snacks all the time. And there's ways to incorporate some healthy snacking into there if you really want some snacks. But you start looking at your meals. What do I eat for meals? What foods are in my diet that are not appropriate, that are least nutritious and highest calorie? And you look at how to reduce the amount that you eat of those components while adding something to substitute for it that is healthy. And so this is a migration. You start from a horrible diet, and slowly you start replacing things. You cut back down on things that aren't nutritious and aren't healthy. And you start incorporating healthier things into your diet. And just I'd like to use this example. Say you like to drink sodas. And so you drink a 6-pack of sodas a day. And then you say, well, okay, that's one place that I can cut back a lot of calories and I get rid of some sodas. So how am I going to do that? Well, you can delay drinking a soda. I drink one now. Well, I'm not going to drink it now. I'm going to wait a couple hours, and then I'm going to drink it. It doesn't cause so much stress. It's just cutting it out. And then you say, well, in place of that soda, maybe I'm going to drink some tomato juice or something like that. And so instead of having a soda, you drink some tomato juice. And over time, you replace the 6-pack of soda with, you can replace with a 6-pack of tomato juice. That would be a huge improvement. But people say, well, gee, that's your favorite thing. You see sodas laying around, and you're going to really crave it, and you're going to, it's going to be really difficult. But the fact is, once you have trained yourself to cut back on the poorly nutritious foods and things like the sodas, when you look at it, someone says, here, have the soda, and you look and say, no, I really don't want that, because you see it as the enemy. You see it as something that is killing you. Excuse me, something that is very low nutrition, and it's not your friend anymore. It's not that relief. You drink a soda, you're a little stressed out or something, and you drink a soda and you say, oh, wow, subconsciously, this is giving you some kind of relief. But once you get away from it and you substitute it, and especially when you start feeling better, you start feeling better and you start losing a little weight and you really feel good about yourself. You look at these things and you don't see them as something you crave anymore. Now it's something that you see as your enemy. And that works for all kinds of things. But as we go through this process, you're slowly, and it slowly means however fast that you can do it that's tolerable to you. Some people can do it very quickly. Some people need 2 or 3 years to kind of change their diet over and make it as nutritionally healthy as they can. And some people may never really convert their entire diet over to a nutritionally healthy diet. But for the major portion of it, they will. They'll convert it to where they got their weight down to where they want it, and they're eating a nice variety of foods from the different food groups on the pyramid. But they still incorporate a few things that maybe they shouldn't. Maybe that person never quits drinking sodas. Maybe there's pies or ice cream or something in there that they never really eliminate. And if the rest of your diet is really good nutritionally, that's probably not such a big deal. But it's just when every component of your diet is high calorie, low nutrition, where's the biggest problem lies. But most people can get away from all of that completely, make their diet very healthy. And the important thing is, a really important aspect of this is you're doing it with foods that you like. And that's why I don't suggest any particular diets to anybody. If we're talking on a group, a Zoom meeting with a bunch of people that are working on the program, and somebody says, or I say, hey, here's a recipe for something that's really nutritious and includes this, and this, give it a try. I think those things are okay. But for me to say that, okay, this is what you need to change your diet to, you need to eat this, you need to eat that, and stuff like that, I think that's very counterproductive, because it may be something that you like, it may be something that you don't like, and then I'd be doing exactly the same thing that all of these diet programs are doing. They're telling you what to eat and so forth. So you need to learn how to eat good, nutritious foods that are ones that you like. And that way you'll maintain the program. And once you get to a point where you understand this and you're working on your diet, or maybe you've achieved your diet the way you want it to be, you no longer need my help, because you've got the information you need to know what it really is, a healthy diet. You know that all the advertisements for the supplements and all these other things are just things that are killing you. And some of these advertisements for supplements and things like that, they're pretty convincing. You listen to the advertising, you think, oh, I should be doing that. But you only really say that if you don't know better. But if you know better, you say, yeah, that sounds great, but I know that they're playing off people's ignorance about nutrition and these things, and they're just going to suck people in. So that's kind of where my program's at. And I wrote the book to educate people and give them an idea, but I found that the book wasn't quite adequate in order to help a lot of people. Some people are very good. They can read the book and they can take that information and run with it and achieve what they want to achieve. But the greater part of the population needs some more guidance, some more help. So that's what I started. I put together a coaching program, and I have a website, www.ss-health.com, that provides this coaching. And if you take the information in the book, and I've taken that information and I've made a video series which comprises about 50 videos. I've expanded on that information and added a little new information to teach people the information they need to know, and then how to use that information. But as part of the program, they have a video series to work with, but we have Zoom meetings where groups of us can get together on a weekly basis and talk about, okay, where are you at in the program? And there's different levels of Zoom meetings. People who are just starting out, people who've done the program for a while, and people who are well advanced in the program. And we talk about things, answer their questions, and the recommendations. And people come up with some really clever ideas and things that contribute to the group. It's really great. And then there's people who just really need some one-on-one coaching. And so I provide the coaching and training at those 3 levels. And it's working very well. And my biggest fight is trying to convince people that the medications are killing them, like the GLP-1s. People who are on that are very, very stuck on it, but they're looking for something for nothing, what I call it. They want a way to lose their weight and get to where they want to be without having to put a lot of effort into it on their part. But that's just not reality. And so what I want to teach people is what is reality, and then how to use that reality. And once people really get down to this program and they learn what they need to know and they learn how to make their diet the way it is, then they no longer need my help. Mm-hmm. They've got it down, because this is something they're going to have to do the rest of their life. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to pay somebody, some program the rest of their life to tell me what to eat and how to eat. I want to do that on my own. Right. I think most people do. And so once they get to a point where they understand what they need to know and they've got their diet changed over and they don't need the coaching or the hand-holding and thing, then they're out on their own. Yeah. And once they have this down, no matter where they go, if they fall off the wagon or whatever, they know where to go. They know how to pull themselves out of there. Right. They know how to change their diet and go about making themselves more nutritionally healthy and get themselves back to where they want to be.
Okay. All right. So go to ss.health.com and you can reach out to Dr. Lewis right there in reference to it, and all the videos and instructions on weight loss and the truths behind them. Dr. Lewis, you're welcome to come back on this podcast anytime. I thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And thank you, everybody, for watching the Life with Joey Calvo podcast. God bless you all.